What's going on, everyone, and welcome into another episode of Expected Bets for, I believe this is episode 62 now. So again, closing in on episode 100. So
closing on
maybe
episode 69.
69, yeah, that could be a
that's going to be a party
Propsapalooza. Yeah, that might be. We might get 8 of us in here for that one. We break it down the games for January 18th. Obviously, today on the 17th, we got a 2-game schedule here after Buffalo, Chicago postponed. So not really much to talk about there. Before we get into all the matchups for tomorrow, let's bring the rest of the crew. Betzky, how we doing?
Yeah, doing pretty good out here. It's been an interesting couple of weeks to start the new year. I've been kind of impressed with seeing some of the big names hitting their shots on goal line. I think there's been a lot of kind of chatter in the Twitterverse that things aren't great, but I actually think it's more about hooks. Now, last night was kind of dirty, and we'll see if that all-star break kind of lull is upon us now. But there's definitely some value these past couple of weeks, and it definitely gets me excited for post all-star to the playoff march. I kind of forgot what it feels like when like 10 big names hit their shots on goal prop in one night, and I think we're getting there. I think for the first time in the season, we're getting there.
Yeah, the playoff race, too, is obviously heating up, and there's some interesting names, too, kind of atop of the standings, especially given Edmonton's turnaround. Winnipeg's up there as well, which I think we've liked them for a while, the past few years, I think, but they've never really kind of followed through. Franco, sorry, Betzky, I'll get you one set. Franco, how we doing out there in Philly? What's the status of the mayhem?
Yeah, we move on, man. That's all you can do, right?
You got the Flyers.
Be pissed off during the day,
next
and
team
then
up.
Next team up. Like, what the hell am I? Why should I care? You know what I mean? So, yeah, you vent that night, you get pissed off, drink a couple more beers, and then you move on because football season's over in Philadelphia at least, and now it's hockey season and the NBA if you're into that. But yeah, I mean the Flyers have been surprisingly good, and it's kind of exciting. We have a nice young defenseman that looks very much the part. And like I said in that previous episode, I can't remember the last time they've had an exciting young defenseman on this team. So it's fun to watch, man. I mean, he's made some crazy plays and he is very noticeable, Drysdale. So exciting time in Philly. Yeah. I mean, let's ride that wagon. Forget the Eagles. Let's go.
Yeah, I still think that was a great pickup, but yeah, it sucks that you lose a top prospect like Cutter, but
yeah, but Drysdale, I think he was right. I mean, Drysdale I agree. He already looks like the part. Like he's.
Yep.
I was expecting, like, usually when you get a young player in a trade, right? Like the new coach shelters them. They get sheltered minutes. They don't play a lot. You feel tentative watching him on the ice that, like, oh, if he makes a mistake, like he's gonna get benched or something like that. Like those first 2 games, I know he's missed the last 2 because of illness or whatever, but those first 2 games he's on the ice making plays, jumping in on the rush, coming back defensively, blocking shots. He shut down I think it was Eriksson Ek on a breakaway, and then they turned it around and ended up scoring the game winner in overtime. So he's just all over the place. He is very much looks the part, like he's ready to play. So it's awesome.
Yeah. No. Before we get into the games too, just a few news and notes around the NHL. Nothing pretty much, not a ton of news, I guess, compared to last week's episode for sure. The All-Star break's coming up, like we mentioned before, February 1st and 2nd. I mean, we had Betzky, your thoughts on kind of the jerseys of just an absolute atrocity.
Yeah, it looks like fast food branding. You know, if you close your eyes and like were to create a Space Jam for the NHL, that's like what I would imagine the cartoon version of their jerseys would look like, or like a Scholastic Book Fair book on hockey. That's like what that looks like. And with
maybe they're trying to bring the kids in, trying to get more kids excited for them. I don't know.
They removed that stupid shootout too, where they all dress up in costumes, that's gone. So that's at least.
Can we just do a real shootout? Like what is this, man? Like that's exciting.
Yeah, the format's a little bit different too this year, which makes it seem like it's a little bit more competitive too. I think the winner think there's 8 guys or something along the lines too, and the winner gets $1 million. So
Yeah.
obviously,
there's cash prize. Gives you something to fight for.
At least some incentives for them to try to perform. And still, the betting lines too are always fun as well. You can catch DraftKings. I think they post them pretty early, so there's always some lines on fastest skater and hardest shot and all that. So stay tuned for that. Obviously, Bedard still out from his jaw injury there, but resumed skating. But like we said before, I think Franco, you said it doesn't matter at all really until he gets that non-contact jersey off there. Eichel, lower body injury. He's week to week now, which is another loss for Vegas, who's just got the injury bug, it seems like, for that team too. They're struggling right now big time.
Yeah. William Karlsson out for them too. I mean, that's a forward group that is kind of hanging on a thread right now. Speaking of another one, Colorado losing to Chushkin really hurts that depth.
That's big. Their lines look disgusting right now. Like really bad.
It's very rare that I can't don't know who multiple players are, and that team right now is like 3 people in their top 9 I've like never heard of, and 2 of those people are people I didn't know going into the season, and I've learned who they are because they're on Colorado. This should be about 5 people I don't know. So half your forward group I couldn't have named before the start of the season. But then on the flip side, we got some guys getting healthy. The New York Rangers getting kind of a full top 9 back, especially once Hedl gets back. Kaprizov's coming back, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit. It's interesting, the shifts this year of lots of big names going out and kind of the way teams have had to adjust. I mean, we've definitely seen, lots of teams lose depth, but Jack Hughes, Timo.
The Devils, yeah, exactly. At least they get Meyer back. Meyer returns to the lineup tonight too. But yeah, another team just depleted by injuries.
Yep. So I guess you just keep on moving on. But there's been a lot of teams that felt like you almost had too many props to choose from at one point this season that now are like hard to find any sort of value on because of it. But it's interesting.
Yeah, agreed. Winnipeg only gets stronger too with Kyle Connor returning to the lineup for that team as well. So,
yeah, but they lost Scheifele, right?
They lost Scheifele though, yeah. So
but 1 for 1, yeah.
Yeah, no, I know. It's funny because it's been the same team.
Though?
It's like one person leaves, one person comes back. What?
Yeah.
How long is Scheifele out for though?
Know.
I think it was like a knee, right? I think it looked like a bad hit. It looked like a bad one, if I remember correctly. That's a big loss for them because he's kind of like their heart and soul type of guy.
Offensive center too.
Yeah.
I mean, Lowry's fine and whatnot, but I mean, none of those guys are like.
Yeah, I mean, Lowry's more like your shutdown defensive center than your line 1 center for sure.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's pretty much all I had. Obviously, the trade deadline rumors have started to pick up as well. That's happening early March. So, again, that should be interesting this year, especially with the teams in contention that we didn't see kind of coming, who we assumed to be sellers at the deadline. Now it's going to happen. There's trade rumors on Stamkos, which is just absolutely wild in itself.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah.
really, Stammer's available?
Yeah, Tampa's GM came out and said Stamkos isn't being traded, and everyone's like, yeah, no shit. Why would you trade him right now, especially kind of given this way that Tampa's kind of rebounded? Obviously, Vasilevsky returns from injury, struggles a little bit, but he's kind of found his game in the past few his starts, at least it seems like. So they're trending in the right direction as well. We'll get to them a little bit later.
Gensel being a big rumor for Vancouver. That'd be killer.
Yes, they say Scheifele's on a retroactive IR.
The Metropolitan Division in general is just so tight right now. Like, I don't know how you can be a seller as any of these teams. The Devils are in 7th, but they're 1 point back from the Penguins in 4th.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, and 6 points back from the Kings in 3rd. So 2 or 3 games they could shoot right back up. So how is Pittsburgh a seller? Obviously, I guess the price is right for Gensel, but they could just as well be in 2nd place within a week. It's crazy.
Yeah. We saw Nashville too. We assumed they were going to be sellers at the deadline, but they're right up there in fourth in the Central Division. So why would they get rid of Saros there as well? So just a ton of kind of question marks heading into March and further on. But anything else before we get into the games tomorrow?
Poor Ottawa, man. Feel bad. That was it was really hoping that team was going to be a lot of fun and competitive.
I still don't get how they're so bad.
I don't
How
either.
are they so bad?
On paper, everything's decent. I mean, that's a great blue line. That's a great
Their
top
top
six.
two lines are beasts.
On paper,
like,
their goaltending shouldn't be that bad. It's nuts.
Yeah.
And Chikrin's asking out now. Or indicated he won't resign this summer.
It was just so depressing watching that toilet bowl the other day of the Sabres Senators and just reminiscing of all the games we used to have in the postseason versus them when they had their big guys, Alfredson, Heatley, Spezza, and then we had kind of Briere, Drury, Miller versus Ray Emery, Barant. I mean, and just to see where these teams have gone in 10 years is just sad. It made me feel sad. So that's all I have it's my sadness of the day for the Sabres fans. But yeah. All right, let's get into the games for January 18th. We got a bunch of bigger slate than we expected, obviously, with the Sabres Blackhawks game being moved. First game up, though, we'll talk about is Colorado traveling to Boston. Boston is minus 142 on the money line, over under set at 6. Juice the over here at minus 130. These teams did play once earlier this month. Colorado beat Boston 4-3 in OT. Colorado much better at home than they are away in Boston. Obviously, that home streak has kind of been dominant the past 2 seasons for them as well. Colorado 8-2 in their last 2 games, though. This is the 4th game of a 5-game road trip. So we'll see how they're feeling. Boston's 2nd game of their homestand here, 6-1-3 in their last 10. I'll start with you here, Franco. I think we're on the same side here that we talked about before.
Yeah, I really like Boston here on the money line. I know it's minus 142. Maybe I end up sprinkling a little on the regulation line or a minus 1 line or something like that. Yeah. But that Colorado game last night was pretty wild. Mm-hmm. They scored 5 unanswered goals, I believe it was. They were trailing against Ottawa, and Ottawa just, I mean, their goaltending was pretty horrendous in that game. The goals that Colorado scored and the defensive breakdowns were pretty pathetic. So, and Colorado was getting it from like 3rd and 4th liners too. It was like Miles Wood scored and stuff like that. So,
and that was that was really impressive to me too, because in Montreal it was that typical one-line Colorado show that we saw in the playoffs, and that it didn't work against Seattle in the 7-game series, and it didn't work against Montreal. So it was cool seeing the 3rd and 4th liners kind of picking up the slack last night.
Yeah, but like I said, I mean, that it's almost like that is their lines right now. Those guys are kind of forced to get some real minutes now. So it's not your typical Avs lineup that you want to see out there if you're going to be backing them. Yeah, that first line looks good, but Colton, Kiviranta, and O'Connor is your second line. I mean, that's pretty disgusting on the surface there. So, yeah, I mean, off a big emotional win like that, long road trip, like you said, Gator. But also, I mean, I'm looking at the road numbers, and they're not as good.
No.
So Colorado is 11-8-3 on the road overall. Boston at home is 13-3-3 at home. I mean, they're just dominant at home. Their power play has been picking up as well. Both penalty kills are pretty good overall, but I mean, I don't know. I still don't believe in Colorado's goaltending. Their defense is still good, but I see this game being like a 4-2 Boston type of game. At worst, that's kind of like the starting point. Love Pasta goal, 5 goals in 5 games against them. So obviously you're not going to have a ton of value there. So maybe 2 points for him or something like that. And Charlie Coyle point looks pretty good as well. He has 6 points in 5 games against them. So those would be where I would lean. Trent Frederick even pops 3 goals in 4 games against them. So if you want to go long shot, even that I would be willing to do that. So lots of Bruins pop on paper, at least against them historically, and honestly, the big dogs for Colorado don't really pop against Boston, and we already know they're able to shut it down. So, just loving Boston tomorrow.
Yeah, I agreed. I mean, you mentioned the power play too. It's pretty interesting. So Colorado's power play has been actually red hot. They've scored at least one power play goal in each of the last 9 games here, looking at kind of the stats too. And while Boston ranks 6th in PK overall, they've allowed a goal in 7 of their last 10. So I don't know the home and away splits there, but just kind of something I noticed. And you figured Colorado with this decimated lineup, if they are going to score, it's going to be when they stack that power play to try to generate some offense. So
yeah,
it could be
I
a
did note
sneaky look.
too that PK was down a little bit too. It was like down like 5% for Boston. So I mean, they're towards the top regardless, but they're not as dominant as they've been just overall.
Yeah. Betzky, any looks for you in this one?
Yeah, I really like that money line look. When you mentioned it before we started recording, I saw something online saying that Colorado hadn't lost back-to-back in several years or something like that. And it was funny in my head. I was like, why would they? I wouldn't go on Boston because they just lost last night, because I completely forgot that they came back and beat Ottawa, because the first 2 periods of that game, it felt like it was all Ottawa, even though Colorado just kept on being able to return goals. But yeah, I mean, for how decimated that roster is, getting a point in Montreal in overtime and then getting the big 2 last night, they're probably feeling halfway decent, having to cross the border, going to be tired, missing players. So yeah, I really like that. It's even at -140 is could put it with something juicy and get a nice parlay piece. I'm going to fade Colorado tomorrow. I think this road trip's probably eating them away. Who did Georgiev start yesterday? Or
no, it was Annunen. So I assume Georgiev is going to be back.
But looking at Georgiev's stats too, in 3 of his last 4 starts, he's allowed 3 or more. So he hasn't been playing well at all. All of his save percentages are below 0.9. So not really something. And then the only game he won during that span was against Vegas, who had 25 shots on him.
Jeez, yeah. And Pasta had he had some point. Well, I guess he almost hit his shots on goal line last game. So I'm in favor with everything you jotted down. Charlie McAvoy is always a good look for an assist, especially if you think it's going to be a high scoring game. He has nice value. You need to take a look to see if he's got any good history against Colorado, but again, may not matter. Another thing, even if you want a little bit more value than the Boston money line, the team total could be really good too, with the way Colorado's been leaking goals. You can probably expect Boston's to at least get 4, huh?
Yeah, too. And you mentioned, go ahead, Franco.
I was going to say that McAvoy look is a good look. He has 6 assists in 5 games versus them. So
perfect. Yeah.
I didn't want to take everybody, but seriously, like a ton of Boston players pop. So just take a look and pick your favorite.
Yeah. I was actually trying when I was trying to pitch that. I was hoping the Colorado penalty kill was worse than it is, but they're 11th overall. But it's not like Montreal has a killer power play. So their past 10 teams, they may have just been, sneaking by with easier opponents. I'll have to take a look who else they've played recently. But
Colorado's PK has allowed a goal in 7 of their last 10. So again, kind of on the downturn as well. And going back to that Coyle look, Franco, I absolutely love that in this game. Hitting 8 of his last 10, and then at home he's hit each of his last 4, I believe. So yeah. And then even a greater sample size, 6 of his last 10 at home. So really like that Coyle look. He's usually around plus kind of even money. He's usually around even money. Like maybe that plus 110 for a point.
Yeah. Sometimes it depends on the matchup. Like I've even seen him at like -130, and you're like, how the hell is Charlie Coyle -130? It doesn't even make sense. Come on, man. But yeah, if he's -110 or -105 or something like that, for sure I'll take him. If not, I might pivot and do that McAvoy assist. And I'll probably do that Frederick goal because that's just fun.
Yeah, why not?
Just a quick side too. A couple days ago on Monday the 8th, the Bruins and Avs played in Colorado, and Avalanche won 4-3. So
yep,
even better.
Yeah.
Yep.
It all
Yeah,
lines
I'm
up.
sold. I'm sold.
You
Stamp
think
it.
that it feels like that line's going to move though, right? Like I feel like it's not going to be 142 tomorrow. I feel like it
I
could
agree.
drop to like the
Probably not,
155 line. So if you're going to grab it, I would grab it as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And also the other thing too is like there's a lot of talk about Colorado wanting to give Georgiev some more rest. So like if for some reason I mean that would be fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So if that news comes out, you're that line's gone for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're watching this tomorrow, go onto your
so,
book,
yeah,
and get it in as
it.
soon as we got to that sale job at the very end here. So
next game up, we have Dallas traveling to Philly here. Philly's a home dog in this one, plus 114. Dallas minus 135 on the money line. Over under set at 6 here. The over is minus 118. Dallas has won their last 7 games versus Philly. Historically dominated them, and they enter on a pretty good streak here. They've won 4 of the last 5, but Philly's also been red hot, winning each of their last 4 as well. Ottinger's now back, and he looks kind of like right where he left off, kind of the same old Jake Ottinger. Franco, I'll start with you here again. Any looks in Dallas, Philly?
Yeah, I mean, I really love the under here. So I'm seeing under 6 at plus money. If you can get a 6.5 somewhere at like a minus 130, I'd love that even more. But I'll probably take the value at the 6 at plus money. Just a ton of things stand out here. Kind of went through Shot Props site and filtered through last 20 for each team and the home road splits for each of them, and literally nothing pops offensively for either of these teams where they're playing. Just a quick rundown, like Dallas's power play on the PK on the road is good. Their goals against is 23rd, 2.8 a game. They're only scoring 1.8 goals on the road. Philly's only scoring 2.0 goals at home, or 2.5 goals at home. So it's Philly's PK is 95% at home, ranking first, which is ridiculous in the last 20 games they played. So that one's fun. Philly's still averaging a ton of shots at home, but they're not scoring. A lot of just firing the puck on net, goalie standing on their head, or just low danger stuff. So we know Andre can be very good, like you guys said, to start off. So I like him hopefully starting on the one side, and it looks like it'll probably be Ursan for Philly with Carter Hart starting the last game. And to be honest, at this point, like if I'm betting Philly or if I'm betting an under in a game with Philly, I want Ursan in net, not Carter Hart. He seems to be making the bigger saves, the more important saves when the defense breaks down and you need to have that save in a tight game. So if it's Ursan and Ottinger, I'm definitely locking in this under here. I love it. I could see like a 2-1, 2-2 overtime type of game here, and 6 should sail under. So that's probably where I'm going to go. Prop wise, Tippett's been red hot for Philly. Shots and points and goals. Honestly, he seems to be kind of like their engine right now. Maybe he's turning into the guy that they thought they were going to be getting for Giroux when they made the trade. I know they were kind of panned for that trade, and everybody thought they could have got more for a guy like Giroux, and he's kind of looking that part. He's got great energy. He fires the puck a ton. He's just always in the play. So I like him a lot. And the player stuck out the most for me for Dallas is Pavelski point. 10 points in 5 games against Philly.
Wow.
That's impressive. So, I mean, Pavelski typically is a guy that's like a minus 135, minus 140 for a point. If that's the case tomorrow, I'm definitely betting that. So we'll see. I have my thoughts that maybe it might not be if the books are looking at those numbers. He might get bumped to that minus 150 range. If that's the case, then you got pivot, maybe parlay him or something like that, or just go straight assist or straight goal. So I'll see where I'm at tomorrow when all that's said and done, but definitely the under here.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that under look a lot as well. And then you mentioned kind of the goaltenders too, and Ursan has been the better one with a plus 5.3 goal saved above expected. Hart decent with a plus 3.0. So few stats on that one. Betzky, any looks for you in this matchup?
I think you really kind of covered everything that I like. The other one that was hitting for a little bit, but since Konechny's kind of been on a little bit of a cold streak, was the Farabee point or Farabee assist was a really nice one to ride for a little bit. Konechny's been a little bit cold. He plays on a line with Farabee, so that's kind of been hurting that. But, you know, at some point that cold streak needs to end. I don't know. Is Sean Couturier still out? Or is he going to be back in?
I think that I would imagine him and Drysdale will be back for this game, but I haven't seen anything either way yet. So
he's questionable.
That makes me
Same
put a
with
pause
Drysdale
on that top line, and maybe just continue to ride Tippett for a little bit
well,
longer.
Betzky,
here.
actually, to give you a little bit of a plus towards that prop, since Couturier has been out, it's been Lawton. Sorry, that's the PK. Atkinson, Paling, and Farabee. And while on the surface that may seem kind of gross to you, we have 3 goals and 1 assist in 3 games for Farabee. So he's actually been heating up a little bit. So maybe that shift off of that top line is helping him out. So that might be a good look.
Yeah. And actually, I'm looking at lines right now. It looks like Tippett's on the top line with Konechny. So they've kind of loaded that one.
Yep.
Yeah. Dallas is really kind of a pick your poison as far as people in that top 6, almost top 9 for points. I know Wyatt Johnson just had a big game too, and he's kind of a streaky guy, younger player. I think he had 1 or 2 goals in this last game against the Kings. Maybe he's getting going. They put him on the top line actually with Robertson and Hintz.
That's huge.
Yeah,
that's huge.
Yeah, I'm jotting that one down. I'm gonna ride that for a little bit here. So Pavelski's actually on the third line with Steele and Ben, but I'm sure he's still getting some of those top power play minutes as well. So seems like the Duchesne Sagan line maybe on the fade side right now, especially since lines got jumbled up a little bit. So I'm gonna jot down Wyatt Johnson point, maybe even shots on goals here. I know both teams are pretty good about kind of keeping or suppressing shots, but these are both teams that are shooting a ton, and it's kind of coming from up and down the lineup. It's not these teams where there's like 4 guys and they're the only ones you can trust. So this may be kind of why it's time to shine for a little bit while he's getting kind of showcased up there at the top to see what he can do. It seems like Pavelski may need a little bit of some extra time off as he's getting ready for those extra days for the All-Star break, maybe.
I love that Wyatt look. He's actually got decent numbers against Philly too. 4 points in 3 games. So I'm probably going to join you on that one.
Sweet. I love it. You're muted. Oh, noob.
Oops.
Noob.
Oh, wow.
Come on, man. Come on.
That's on my part. I was going to say, I have a few stats to back up here under Franco here. So good news, at least. Andrews faced Philly 3 times in his career. He's allowed 1 goal against them in each of those matchups. So he plays them well. The bad news is Urson played in that earlier game they faced off this season here. He only faced 25 shots and he let in 5 goals, but I think that was his worst game of the season. And obviously, if you look at his recent few games, he's been much better. So I'll chalk that up as an outlier.
He started the season off really poorly, actually. He did not look very good, but I mean, he looks the part right now. He passes the eye test. Let's put it that way.
Love it. Love that under in this game. So moving on here, we have Minnesota at Tampa Bay here. Tampa Bay minus 142 on the money line. Over under set at 6.5 here in this one. Minnesota 2-8 in their last 10 here. Just the skid continues for this team after that new coach bump, and it all seems like it's just crumbling back for the Wild team. Tampa Bay on a 3-game win streak, winning 4 of their last 5 here, and just dominant at home, 14-5-3 here. We talked about this one again, but Tampa Bay money line seems like the play here at minus 140. I'll gladly take them in this spot here, especially with Vasilevsky starting to round into form here. Betzky, I'll start with you here. A bunch of looks, kind of given the injury news and everything else. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, well, getting Kaprizov back seemed to spark the Wild a little bit. Game 1, they were shut down by my Yotes, 0-6. with Bukestad Hattie and almost having Keller Hattie too. But game after that, they kind of bounced back. I actually took Kaprizov for 2 points, but it was Zuccarello who pulled through. But regardless, that top line is finding some chemistry again. And I think Wild are going to be finding a little bit more offense that they've desperately needed. Brock Faber is still looking like a fantastic, probably number one defenseman in this league in this rookie season. Again,
he looks like a stud, man.
Yeah,
awesome.
Absolutely. Yep. His shots, it's 1.5 is his line. I think last game was like one of the first, I think he's missed 2 in a row now, but had like an 8-game run before that. That could be a nice parlay piece, maybe with that Boston money line too, because I imagine he's going to kind of have a little bit of a bounce back. But the guy who stood out for me the most is Brandon Hagel. He has been hot lately. So he has 5 points in his last 5 games, only missing in 1 game against Jersey. Tampa has been over, like, just super powered up top line of Braden Point, Stammer, and Kucherov. But I think they broke that up finally. Let me just pull that up. No, they still have it maxed out.
Yeah, so,
yep. Yeah. But I think what's happening here is with that maxed out, that's where we're getting to see a little bit more mismatches, and that Brandon Hagel, Nick Paul line's been really good lately. So Hagel and Paul could be a good look here. I don't really trust either of the Wild goaltenders, even if Gus Bus is back in. He's been up and down this season, and I think Tampa is trying to round out, especially at home. The other one that stood out too, Kaprizov hasn't scored in 2 games since coming back. Could be time for him to get a goal. He has 3 goals in 4 career games against Tampa, which was shocking to me that he's only played them 4 times.
Yeah, that's odd. I wonder if injuries, he's missed a few.
It must be, right? I mean, he hasn't really been in the league all that long, and I think maybe one of those seasons was the COVID season, so he just may not have even played him that year.
Yeah.
So 4 games, 3 goals, 5 points. So
not bad.
Fortunately, his point line's usually 2, but I think he's due for a goal. So that might be a nice look there too.
You could get one of those times though, given the matchup, maybe he might be at a point, and you could do like a Zook and Kaprizov point parlay, and that might be pretty tasty. So keep an eye out for that tomorrow.
Franco, any looks for you here?
Yeah. When you guys started talking about Tampa money line, and I was thinking back to, I guess I don't know if it was a week ago or 2 weeks ago, these 2 teams matched up, and it kind of was, Minnesota was dealing with the injuries at that point. That's when they first kind of started to come on, but they had only lost like 1 game at that point. So it was like the start of this losing streak that has now gone crazy. But at that point, I think they were like 7-2-1 in their last 10 games. So like they were still in that hot streak almost, it's coming to an end, obviously. And Tampa was on the road, is in Minnesota, and I ended up back in Minnesota kind of going against the grain, and obviously they got shelled 4-1, and I look like an idiot. But so I had like that little bit of temptation to just say, you know what, like, you're coming back to it, same matchup, and you usually see the opposite thing happen. I kind of wanted to back Minnesota, especially with everybody kind of coming back, but at the same time, it's like Tampa's just so much better at home. Yeah, it's just night and day, and I can't do it. I just can't do it. Even if I want to, I just can't do it. So I'll probably be eating my words tomorrow. This will be like a 4-1 Minnesota win, and we'll all be laughing about this tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, as far as player props though go, I like Kaprizov, like you said. I kind of like the idea of him getting a goal in this game. And yeah, I mean, Hagel stands out again against this team, so I don't mind that either. Those would probably be the guys I would look at. You just don't get value on guys like Kucherov at this point, and
no.
I mean, his 1.5 point line is like minus money at this point. He's like joining the McKinnons and McDavids of the world. So you need to really be feeling Kucherov and just bet his goal, or I don't know, ladder up his points or something like that.
What about Stamkos? Maybe as a parlay piece, if we get him at a point with, the big GM coming out saying he will not be traded.
That could be something. I could see that. He only has 3 points in 5 games against them, which is weird. And this was another reason why I kind of wanted to back Minnesota in that previous game, was because like none of the studs stand out as far as like their points per game. Usually when you see Tampa, it's like Kucherov is like 8 points in 4 games, Stammer's 6 points in 4 games type of stuff. It's like these guys are barely point per game averages against Minnesota. I guess it's just been good defensive efforts and good goaltending for Minnesota in those historic games. But that's what kind of put me off it. But yeah, that's where I would go, is probably those two you mentioned, and probably go light on this game.
Well, I mean, looking at the shots on goal kind of angle here for this one. So Minnesota in the last 10 has given up the 5th most to centers in this one here. And that top line of Stamkos, Kucherov, and Point. Point has covered his shots on goal line against Minnesota in 4 of his last 5 matchups. And then at home, he's been much better too, covering that line in 5 of his last 7. So that might be a look in terms of this game that I'm kind of going to play on top of Tampa Bay money line. So just something to note there. Any other looks in this one?
One thing you can do too, if you do really like Kaprizov to get a goal, and with him always being around like plus 120 or something, and you do like Tampa to win, you could do Kaprizov goal and Tampa money line. And because they're not correlated with each other, you're usually going to get like a plus 300 or something like that for something. So just something to consider if you like both those plays, just to go kind of against the grain there.
Yeah, I like it for sure. Next game up here, we have Toronto at Calgary here. Calgary a home dog in this one, plus 105. Tampa Bay minus 125. Over under set at 6.5 here. Juice the over minus 122. Kind of a tale of two stories in this one. Toronto's coming off or enters this game on a 4-game losing streak here. Calgary on a 4-game winning streak here. I saw a tweet earlier today, basically, that said the Leafs under Sheldon Keefe have rebounded tremendously after a 4-game losing streak. So from in the 2020-2021 season, after a 4-game losing streak, the Leafs went 7-0-2. In 2021-2022, after a 4-game losing streak, they went 15-2-1. In 2022 to 2023, after a 4-game losing streak, the Leafs went 15-1-4. Last year, or this season, earlier this season, when they were on a 4-game losing streak, they went 11-2-4 after. So clearly, they just love to get buried for 4 games and then just turn around and go on an absolute
go
tear.
On a heater.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see what happens here. But I saw that tweet and I was like, that's crazy. That kind of just stop at the 4-game, 5-game skid there. But I'll start with you here. Betzky in this one. Any looks in Toronto, Calgary?
Well, I'm kind of all for that bounce back too. Calgary's looked really good though. They look like that team that we were kind of projecting them to be at the start of the season. Looks like it took them a little bit of time to kind of figure things out and get some chemistry with newer lines and the coach and figuring. But it seems like the puzzle is starting to really get put together. That big comeback win against my Yotes last night or 2 nights ago, gosh, time flies, was a little heartbreaking. But one prop that stands out for me is probably Kadri tomorrow night, at least. I definitely think I'm going to lean on that Toronto side. But Kadri used to be a Leaf. He was drafted by the Leafs. He's hit his shots on goal at 3.5, 3 of his 7 career games against them. 2 of those misses were when he was on Calgary, but he wasn't shooting much last season. So he kind of looks more like the old Kadri that we're used to. I take that back. His last game against them was this past November, and he missed. But he was still a little bit cold to start off this season. Yeah, I may be ready to ride him against his former team again, or at least look at his point. For some reason, he's still being criminally underrated. I think his point was like minus 135 against the Coyotes.
Yeah.
He had a point in like 8 of his last 9 against. it's hard for the books to kind of put the right price on these teams when they have 3 lines rolling. And that's what Calgary has right now. So you can almost flip a coin for Blake Coleman, Kadri, maybe even that top line if it's still Lindholm and Sharangovich tomorrow, and kind of hope for the best and get value out of almost anyone there. But if this is truly going to be a Toronto beatdown, gosh, I think I'm ready to ride Matthews to chalk maybe 2 points or Marner 2 points tomorrow then.
Yeah, I mean, Kadri's covered this over half a point line 5 of his last 7 matchups versus Toronto. So that's not a bad look as well. And then kind of even going what Franco said last game is if you put Kadri over half a point in Maple Leafs money line, since they're not correlated, that could be a great look as well.
Yep.
I like that quite a bit. And the funny thing is that line Kadri's been on just doesn't really pop out. Azeri, and I know he was playing with Mangiapane, but now it looks like
Pospisil.
Yeah,
two kids, man. They're 2 kids. So I mean, maybe he's getting some of that youthful exuberance out and feeling good about himself right now.
Yeah, it does look like Huberdeau's still out, but Dubé's on that top line with Lindholm, Sharangovich. So yeah, maybe that Backlund Coleman area or that Kadri look is the good Flame side. I feel like Marner is like one of those players that you can trust on big games too. So I may ride his 2+ points for half unit tomorrow, and maybe do the same for Matthews or Nylander. And chances are one of those 3 will hit, and there's always that chance that all 3 do, and you're extremely happy.
Even Morgan Riley's been pretty good as of late too.
He has
market
undervalued prop.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you mentioned Huberdeau. It stinks too. It seems like he finally started to kind of get back on the score sheet, and then he.
I thought I saw Huberdeau's going to play tomorrow.
He's questionable.
He's questionable. Looks like, but yeah. And I mean, if it's one of those things where it's just if he's just been sick, then usually they're coming back sooner rather than later. But
yeah, Franco, any looks for you here in this one?
I love the the Kadri revenge game angle.
Yeah,
I love revenge games. So I'll probably do typically like what I like to do in games like that is go a little heavier on shot props, and then I'll probably sprinkle his goal prop. Given what his line mates are, I think what's working with that line is you have 2 younger, high energy guys that are kind of wearing down the defenseman and getting it set up in the zone and getting pucks and stuff like that, and you're getting him kind of like left alone because they're just 2 pesky fast guys. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I think it's a good thing for him. So if Huberdeau's back, I think they keep that line together too, given what they did yesterday. So. I agree. Calgary is weird right now where you have 3 lines, I feel like, that can score and can be productive. And I feel like it could be that type of trappy situation where you see a Huberdeau point at -105 or -110, you bet him, and it's all the Kadri line. You see Coleman on a streak and his points +120, and it's all the Lindholm and Huberdeau lines. So it's definitely one of those things you got to be careful because it can get really tilting if you are on the wrong side of it and you keep kind of shifting. So
one thing that it's actually been kind of the opposite of that, which is nice. So if you go to Dober Hockey, they have a little tool there where you can see production by lines. And last time I checked, all 3 of their top 3 forward lines have had 3 goals in the past 3 games. So it's like each line is actually getting on the score sheet. So it's very rarely that it's just like the Kadri line puts up 2 of the 3 goals, and the third one came from a defenseman or like a shorthanded or something. It's really they're getting up and down the lineup. So if you pick one guy from each line, like say Coleman, Sharangovich or Lindholm and Kadri, like chances are you're going to hit 2 of 3 of those.
Yeah, you're going to.
And then Hannafin's been really good lately too.
Yeah, he let me down last night. I was pretty excited to bet his prop. It was +148 for a point last night, and he didn't get one. So
yeah,
a little heavier on Lindholm, and he hit luckily in overtime. But yeah, I mean, I feel like It can be tricky though, because you know how it goes. It's like you bet Lindholm point, and it's Sharon Govich and Huberto that get the point, and
True.
Hannafin assist or something like that. So
True.
that's all I was getting at. Is like
Yeah.
I think my point being is like if you're going to ride one of these guys, I don't mind coming back to them if they miss. So say you bet Kadri tomorrow, and he misses. Bet on the next game because he's probably going to record a point, and you're going to be pissed off if you shift to Lindholm the next game and he doesn't record a point, and you're just like, why does this happen? And it does, and I don't know why. As a bettor, it feels like you have to shift. You did all this research, you see Kadri's hot, you want to bet him in this game, and then he misses, and you're like, well, fuck that guy. I'm not betting him again the next
vandalist
game.
Or something.
Yeah. Like why do we do that? You know,
it's
terrible.
I find myself doing it all the time. I'm telling you now, the better. Don't do that tomorrow.
Yeah.
If that happens to you, just come right back to it. Maybe I'll do Hannafin since he missed for me the previous night. So
I jotted him down because you said he missed. I was thinking he hit.
Yeah. See,
next day betting is a real thing. It
really is, man. It really is. So you gotta change your mindset that like he missed and now he's just gonna miss the next 10 games. That's not reality. So just my 2 cents. I know I kind of went off on a tangent there, but yeah, I think Kadri's gonna be my heaviest bet probably for this game, and I kind of lean the Leafs, but I don't know. This is going to be a fun game. I think this is a game you pick your prop, you bet like 1 or 2 bets in it, whatever you want to do, and you sit back and enjoy because it's going to. I feel like Toronto and Calgary have both been playing at a higher level recently, and that's fun to see with these Canadian teams. So that's where I'm going to go with it.
Yeah.
Is Nylander's point line, is that 1.5 usually, or is it at the half point mark?
Just depends on the matchup.
I was going to say, I've seen it both. I didn't know if it kind of settled in the last few games because I haven't touched him. But so
I would project it's going to be half in this game.
Okay.
So
if it is, it's obviously going to be juiced probably around that minus 200 mark. But looking at his stats, in each of his last 7 games against Calgary, he's recorded a point. 5 of those matchups were multi-point games.
Wow.
In his last 8 games on the road, he's covered 8 of his last 10 on the road. 6 of those games are multi-point games. So just something to look at for there in terms of a guy that you might not expect to target. Don't really know where his hatred for Calgary developed, but clearly it's there. So, that's probably
he got snubbed by them.
Target.
He got snubbed by them in his draft year. Did he go 4th overall and Sam Bennett went 3rd? 2018 draft.
I think you would know that better than anybody.
Yeah,
I'm terrible with draft knowledge. I guarantee you're like spot on that shit.
It went Ekblad. Oh wait, no, it went Ekblad, Reinhart, Draisaitl, then maybe Nylander. That draft, looking back at it, you know what? Michael Del Cole may have been 6th or something. Regardless, Flames definitely picked Sam Bennett above Nylander.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. Said 2018.
I'm not 18. I'm sorry, 14.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a while ago. That's kind of crazy to think that those guys have been in the league that long.
No kidding.
Also, I mean, we can talk about it now, but Sam Reinhart, does he have a chance to win the Rocket Shard? I mean, he has been absolutely fucking unbelievable these past few games. He's now plus 550. Matthew's still the heavy favorite at minus 225, but wow, Sabres look like real dummies letting that guy walk out the door.
Well, I mean, to be fair, he's in a contract year, right? So I could see that scenario where he signs with somebody big next year and he never does this again. As much as it's been fun to watch and he's been awesome, and you know how it is. Next year he's going to put up like 15 goals, and we're going to be like, what the hell happened to that guy?
Yep. Yeah, no, Nylander got selected 8th, Sam Bennett 4th, Draisaitl was 3rd, Sam Reinhart was 2nd, Ekblad 1. But you never know. Maybe Flames were talking to him, telling him that he was going to go top 4, so he would have been the top 5 pick, and he got excited, and then all of a sudden they went Sam Bennett. Yeah. Who knows? Larkin
dropping to 15th in that draft too is crazy. Looking back at it.
Pasta.
Yeah, Yeah.
Pasta's like
Pasta,
27th.
Kempe.
That's a pretty stacked draft right there. That's
It's
crazy.
insane. 25th for Pasta. Kempe 29th. Wow.
Tuck 18. Yeah.
Isn't Fiala in it?
Yeah, Fiala was where did I see him? 11th. Ehlers at 9. Yeah, it's not a bad
that's
draft.
a ton of talent. And it's, again, like I said, it's crazy to think of how long ago that draft was. And these guys all feel like they don't feel like old players.
No,
that's a long time ago, man. That's crazy.
We're old. Because we're old now.
Next game up, we have Arizona at Vancouver here. Vancouver minus 205 on the money line here. Arizona's plus 170 over under, so at 6.5 here. Juice the under in this one here. Arizona kind of back and forth. It seems like the past few games, Vancouver 7-2 in their last 10, winning 5 of their last 6 here. Betzky, I'll start with you here for this squad. Nick Schmaltz, who obviously I had kind of circled in terms of points and shots on goal line, day-to-day with an undisclosed injury here. So that kind of hurts their lineup. Heaton out as well. So what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who they start. Ingram's been really hot lately. I mean, he was pitching another shutout up until the last couple minutes of the third last night. It would have been 2 in a row. I don't know if they can go back to him. I mean, I know they like riding him, but I don't know if this is the time to do it. But depending on who's in net, or maybe not even, it may just be one of those things where Ingram gets put in net and he's a little bit too exhausted to really play his A game. So I'm definitely going to lean Vancouver here. Arizona's worst on the road. They had that big win against Minnesota after they got absolutely demolished by the Flames. Almost won last night. Cooley almost had a beautiful breakaway goal. Still made it to overtime to get a point. I think this is that game that they just dropped, especially against their old coach, Rick Tocchet, and an old player named Connor Garland who loves playing against them. So Garland has 1, 2, 3, 4 plus 3, 7, 8 points in his 5 games against his former team.
Wow.
He's only missed in 1. He had 3. He had a hat trick last time they played in April of last year. So give me Garland. I know that top line is just completely stacked for Vancouver right now, but that's going to allow more mismatches for the Garland line. Actually, Coyotes do have fairly decent depth, but he is clearly motivated whenever he plays the Yotes. His shots usually look pretty good too, so it'll kind of depend. You know what? I'll take him at 3. He's only missed 3 shots out of 2 of those games. 5-3, 2-1, 3-5. He's a spiteful man. He's a spiteful man. He had a terrible exit interview. I mean, it came out of nowhere when we traded him. He was never in rumors.
He was like a fan favorite there, right? Like I love
homegrown talent,
betting him.
6th round pick.
He was fun to watch there for them during that stretch. Him and Keller were awesome.
Yep, he loved playing here too. Is the way that we could unload OEL's contract, though.
Yeah,
he was the sacrificial lamb, as they say. So yeah, I'll probably take both of those props for Garland, then hoping one hits and they both may be plus money. Otherwise, power play points may look good on the Vancouver side. Quinn Hughes is much better at home. His assist is probably a really nice parlay piece. I don't know how the Coyotes rank 10th and 11th, 12th worst penalty kill in the league. Wait, why are there only 30? Oh, I see what's going on. I'm sorry. 13th worst or 11th worst. Jeez, I can't do math right now. 11th worst. So
close enough.
In that range where I think I feel confident enough to take a power play point from one of the top power play units in the league. So that's probably how I'll split kind of the props I'm looking for. Shots are usually a little dicey on the Vancouver side, but Garland seems like he's pretty reliable here. Oh, another sneaky one. Dylan Guenther. His line's been 1.5 for his shots.
Yep.
He had hit it in all 4 games. I still think, but that last one they took back was sketchy.
He was on my radar last night. I didn't pull the trigger, but I'm going for him tomorrow for sure.
Yeah, it was minus 135 last night, and he's from BC, if I remember correctly, on top of it. So I know he played for Seattle Thunderbirds, so he's very used to that area. He may have friends and family going to that game. Yeah, I like Gunther. Even if it's too juiced, that would be maybe, one of those parlay pieces with that Boston money line that we've talked about a couple times now.
Do you think that they're going to shift the lines though with no Schmaltz?
That's a good point.
That line together because it's been so good.
I would take a look at lines for Arizona, make sure that Gunther isn't getting bumped down or anything. But if anything, I would almost assume that he could potentially get put on the top line with Keller because he kind of plays.
That almost might be better anyway.
I know. Yeah. So he's definitely a kind of a shoot first guy. His attempts have been in the 4 to 5 range per game. We need offense right now, and if Schmaltz is out, that may be a good way to get jump started. I know they're trying to get that chemistry with Cooley going, and they look great together, but he's on the top power play unit as well. So,
you usually fade teams coming home after a long road trip. Vancouver is coming off a 7-game road trip here, returning home.
Yeah, but
You still think Vancouver takes it?
Wants to get his boys going against his old team because he's only been in Vancouver for a year and a half. I'm not sure. Yeah. I guess they played last April, so that was probably once Tockett's taken over when Garland had 3 goals against his old team with his old coach. So if he wants to get his guys going, this is the team to do it against.
They're also coming off a bad loss to Columbus too, and I mean, looking back their last few games too, they've rebounded extremely well after kind of a bad loss. So,
and how long have they? When was the last game they played? If you have it pulled up,
the 15th. So they have 2 days off, 3, I guess 2-3 days off. So
I think I like teams after long road trips if they have like a longer extended. I do think they're usually a little bit more worn out when they have a quicker turnaround. But again, if this was some random East Coast team, I think I would probably want to fade them a little bit more. But there's a lot of storylines here.
Yeah, agreed. Franco, any looks for you here in Arizona, Vancouver?
One thing I wanted to point out just to kick it off is Arizona on the road has a 42% power play percentage. I don't understand how that's possible.
What?
Like when I was going through the site, I was like looking at stuff, and I know their power play in general has been pretty good, but I always thought it was at home. So
42 is an insane percentage.
It's recent. It's last 20 games or whatever. So. But I mean, that's crazy. Like, so, and it's 13% at home in the last 20. So whatever they're doing on the road is working. And I know the typical narrative for them has been that they're a home only team and you only bet them at home. So I don't know, something to think about maybe if you did like that narrative that, Vancouver coming off the long road trip, but I don't know if I want to back Arizona. I kind of tend to agree with Betzky that this team's just got too much motivation. I feel like with the former player angle, former coach angle, stuff like that, kind of builds up.
And if Schmaltz is out, that really affects the power play.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, he's
I would double check to make sure how many of those goals against Minnesota were power play goals too.
Yeah, I mean, you always have to take stats like that with a grain of salt. It's like, who do they play in those 20 games? Those 20 games, which is like a nicer sample size than 10. But like, if they play like Columbus and, a bunch of teams that just give up goals, then obviously it's going to look a lot different. But as far as plays, though, I love the Gunther look. I would, like I said, I was looking at his shots that last night. I just didn't want to go too heavy in that game, so I just laid off of it. But with him missing, given his shot volume and stuff like that, I love the look. I know Vancouver's not like the best target for shots against, but if he gets bumped up to that top line, I like it even more. And I might be looking for his goal as well if that is the case. So stay tuned on that one. But Vancouver props look great. Obviously, I'm going to be joining you in all things Garland because I love Connor Garland anyway. and he's going to have that extra incentive. So,
God.
yeah, I mean, you can't deny it. It's just perfect for that revenge angle.
I need to find the exit quote. It was brutal.
Yeah, Vancouver in regulation too, only minus 145.
Yeah, it's not bad. But see, so that kind of like,
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, that's probably a good look. I mean, you could parlay that with that Boston money line or whatever. Maybe just do both of them money line. But yeah, I mean, I think the other thing I'm going to be looking at is if possible, which is probably not going to be, going back to that Miller and Pettersson point parlay.
Yep.
I don't know what they're going to give us a line at, given the matchup against Arizona. Typically, a team that is gives up more goals, at least historically. So, and is viewed negatively by books. So, you might not be able to get that at a bettable number. But I know it's been around minus 120, minus 130. So, if that's the case, I'll gladly take that. But I think the value is all on Garland for them. Quinn Hughes, 8 assists in 4 games against them too. So just another angle to look at. Probably 5 of those. Yeah, 5 of those on the power play. So again, back to that power play angle.
He wasn't a top 5 pick because we took Barrett fucking Hayton instead of him.
Oh God.
Arizona,
I guess, right?
You mentioned Pettersson and Miller.
I think Hughes went right before, so he probably remembers that, and he would have been a top 5 pick. That's something he would have been able to frame up at his house, but now he's number 6.
But if they had drafted him, would they have traded him? Because that's like what they did during that stretch.
Who knows?
Yeah. Franco, you mentioned Pettersson and Miller. So Pettersson has 13 points in his last 6 games overall. And then against Arizona, he has points in 7 of his last 10. JT Miller, 10 points in his last 6 games overall, and 7 points in his last 8 games against Arizona. So that
that line is just crazy.
Right back to the well.
Yeah.
So
if it's bettable, like you should be betting it every night. Like if I don't post it or somebody doesn't post it, you should be betting it every night. It's just ridiculous. Those 2 guys are on a next level right now. It looks so good, and just bet it.
I have a feeling one of those 2, if not both, are going to end up in our parlay for tomorrow. Just
probably
looking ahead as well. Nice cash last week, so that was fun.
Man, let's do it again.
Yeah. Last game up here, we have I skipped over this one earlier. Seattle at Edmonton in this one. Edmonton home favorite in this one, minus 205. Seattle plus 170 over under at 6.5 here. Edmonton, the hottest team in the NHL right now, 11-game win streak, sets a team record, which is insane too when you kind of look at the past Edmonton teams in history, that no team has gotten past that mark. Seattle has lost their last 2 games after a 10-game win streak, so they're on a little bit of a skid here. I'll start with you here, Franco. Any looks in Edmonton, Seattle?
Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed to see that Seattle win streak come to an end. It was kind of fun backing them and getting some really nice prices on their money lines and reg lines and better matchups. So I'm really tentative to come back to them, especially with this matchup. But it does feel like this win streak will come to an end for Edmonton as well. I don't think it's this game, though. As far as props go, James Schwartz kind of jumps out a little bit, I guess, for Seattle. But I'm probably going to go on the Edmonton side. Like, I want to think that Seattle will probably be productive. I want to probably look at the over here. But, man, some of these Edmonton players, their histories against Seattle are just ridiculous. Draisaitl, 17 points in 8 games.
Oh my God.
Isn't it that every single game from Seattle and Edmonton since Seattle's been a franchise has gone over?
I mean, that's it. Yeah. They've only been and
one.
Yeah.
November 11th, 2023, that went under.
You mean the last one, right? The last one.
No, the last
really
one was
hyping up.
The last one was this year. Yeah, 4-3.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, okay. So 2 ago. So the first one this season, though,
first one this season went under. The second one this season went over. Yeah,
went over. Yeah, that's what happens. You know, when it's so obvious that it's going to go over, it's just nothing happens.
It has to go the other way at some point.
Yeah. So again, that's that angle though, where like you just come back to it. If it goes under, like everybody should have been on that over that next game. So definitely want the over if I'm going to be betting a total here. But I don't mind the idea of doing like a Draisaitl McDavid 2-point parlay, just kind of taking your Page Betzky with the Matthews and Marner one. But
Yep.
I mean, come on, man. 16 points in 9 games for McDavid against them. And I know he hasn't been really doing his typical 2-point per game type of performance recently. I know he was on that really insane run to start, at least kind of like the middle points that seemed like of what we've seen so far this season. So feels like the right time though for him to get back on it. And with Seattle kind of slumping, I don't know. I feel like they're kind of running Decord into the ground. I know he was just on fire and he looked great. And I don't know. I feel like he's played too many games in a row. I mean, this is not a guy that has ever played like that many games. I mean, maybe I guess in the AHL he probably has, but
yeah, but he was on ASU. I mean, he was in college a couple years ago, so that was just 2 games a week.
Yeah. So I mean, I just don't know if he's built for it yet. Obviously,
either.
They don't have Grubauer. Are you really going to go back to Dreger after that game against the Rangers? So I think this is a terrible spot for Seattle is really what it comes down to. And Edmonton on the hot streak, Seattle starting that slide. And we've seen it with kind of what we saw with the Wild, like I said earlier, where that slide started. I wanted to bet them because they had only had 1 or 2 losses on it. And that slide just continued. So they were off that hot streak. So I could see Seattle losing like 4 more games on this little slump here. So I like Edmonton here. I like lots of goals from Edmonton. I think that Seattle should be productive enough to get that over, but yeah, probably Edmonton props mainly.
Also, that was a long road trip travel day for them 2 nights ago. So they went from New York all the way across the border to Edmonton.
Yeah.
That's got to be a 6-hour flight, 3-hour time zone difference, cross border. They probably didn't get in to their hotel by at least by midnight Pacific, and they were up all day. So that may be one of those things. Hopefully, they had yesterday off and didn't even bother doing a skate. They could be rusty. Then they go home after this. So you got to be thinking they just want to get this over with. They've been on the road since the 9th. Oh, I'm sorry, the 4th of January.
Yeah, they have a little break after this game too. They have so they play the 18th tomorrow, and then they're off until the 21st when they host Toronto.
Yep.
But then they have 2 more games at home after that with Chicago and St. Louis. So maybe that's when you back them to get off the skid against them too. But yeah, tough 2 opponents coming up.
I agree. And this is not the game where I'm about to support a Seattle bounce back after those last 2 games. And they didn't necessarily look bad against Pittsburgh.
Even against New York too, in that 5-2 loss, they only allowed 22 shots on goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were driving some of the play too. Yeah. But I mean, don't forget too. I mean, they lost Vince Dunn and Beniers. I know that. Yeah, I mean, Burakovsky's always injured though. For them, I feel like that's just like an inevitable thing. But it can't be. Those 2 guys are massive players for this team. I know they're not going to be big household names across the NHL, but I mean, Vince Dunn's been phenomenal for them, and Beniers is just a solid. He's their number 1 center. I mean, it's huge.
So Edmonton, Boston money lines. Call it a day.
Yeah, and then sprinkle both in reg together in a parlay.
I would take Vancouver. I would take Vancouver over Edmonton.
You're crazy.
Yeah,
streak's got to come to an end somehow.
Yeah,
this just doesn't feel
11
like
games. You're like, I haven't been on the past 10, 11.
Yeah, all streaks do come to an end, but like, do you really want to be the one predicting it?
No, I'm not saying Edmonton's going to lose, but I'm like, I feel more confident in Vancouver beating Arizona tomorrow.
Yeah, I could say that.
So, all right. Anything else?
No, this slate sounds like a lot of fun now that we talked through it, though.
Yeah. We thought this would be a short episode today, and we're going on an hour 10 minutes. So
Yeah. That's what
going
happens.
perfect. Yeah, exactly.
We
All
even
right, you
cut
guys
a
want to
game.
shout out your socials one last time?
Yeah, I'm Gretzky Betzky's on Twitter and part of the Parlay Science Discord.
Yeah, and Franco the Banker on Twitter.
Awesome. You can find our podcast at Expected Bets 4 on Twitter. Be sure to stay tuned for our best bets of the day and our parlay. We've been pretty good with the parlays. Looking back at them, so plus money there. And as always, you can
two
find
in our
me
last
on
3.
2 in our last 4.
Yeah,
Nice.
2 in our last 4, and then the
Last
ones
4.
we missed were we missed by 1 leg. So
Yep.
we've been right there.
Yep. Got to start. I can't think of it right now. I'll end this. All right. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you guys next week.